In this video, we're going to work through a couple of examples where we find the equation of a square root function that goes through two given points. So here's our first example. Find the equation of a square root function of the form a square root x plus b. So something times the square root of x plus a little extra bit added on. That approximately contains the points 0, 3 and 16, 8. It says approximately because in the process of this problem, we're going to end up taking some square roots, and basically it's allowing us to do some round off. That's what that approximately is doing for us. So here's how you do this problem. You take one of the points and plug it in to the equation. The easiest one to work with is this 0, 3, so I'm going to start with that. So remember, points come in the form x, y. So I'm going to plug 0 in for my x and 3 in for my y, or f of x. All right, now what's the square root of 0? 0. So what I end up with here is a times 0 plus b equals 3, or in other words, 3 equals b. So that gives me, my function now has the form a squared x plus 3. Now I know what b is, it's 3. All right, so now we find out what a is, we're going to use our other point. So I'm going to plug in 16 for x and 8 for y into my revised equation, my one that I now have the 3 filled into. All right, so I've got 8 equals a times square root 16 plus 3, and now I just have to solve this for a. Okay, what's square root of 16? That's 4. So I've got 4a in the front here. And then if I subtract 3 from both sides, I'll end up with 5 over here, and nothing besides the 4a on the right. And then I just divided both sides by 4. So my a is 5/4. So it turns out I didn't have to round anything off in this particular problem, but sometimes you do. Now I plug my a into my function for my a value, right? 5/4 is my a, 3 is my b. So here's my final answer. My function f of x is 5/4 of a, of 5/4 of square root x plus a 3. Let's try a little bit harder example. This one's harder because it doesn't have any zeros. But the process is pretty similar up to a certain point. You take your function and you plug in your points. So first thing I do is I plug in my 1 and 4. So 1 is my x, 4 is my y, or f of x. But then simultaneously, because I'm going to need them both at once to play off each other, I went ahead and plugged 6 in for x and 10 in for y in a second copy of the equation. So now I've got 10 equals a root 6 plus b. Okay, let me simplify this a little bit. So square root of 1 is 1, so that's just a here. So I've got 4 equals a plus b. And on the other hand, I took square root of 6 and I got a decimal approximation for it, 2.4495, because it said I was allowed to approximate. Okay, so now I have two equations and two unknowns. They're actually linear equations. So this is a system of linear equations, two equations and two unknowns. And you can solve this using either substitution or elimination, your favorite. I happen to like substitution, so that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is take one of the equations and solve it for one of the variables. This equation looks easier, so I'm going to work with it. So I literally subtracted a from both sides to end up with b alone. So I've got 4 minus a equals b. That equation is solved for one variable. And then I bring the other equation down and put this expression for b in. Sorry, my arrow's going to the wrong place. So this expression for b in where the b was in the equation. So now I've got 10 equals 2.4495a plus 4 minus a. So now I have to solve this equation for a. So I copied it over so I'd have some more space. These are the last two lines in the previous slide. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is combine like terms. So I have 2.4-ish a minus 1a, so that'll give me like 1.4495a. But then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, so that'll give me 6 on the left. Or written more nicely, 6 equals 1.4495a. So now to get a by itself, I just have to divide by this decimal here, 1.4495 on both sides. So I end up with a alone equals 6 over 1.4495, which turns out to be 4.1394. Okay, so I've got my a figured out. I just need to figure out what b is. But fortunately, I have this cute little expression relating a and b. So I bring that down, and I plug in my value for a into that expression. So what's 4 minus 4.1394? Turns out to be negative 0.1394. So that's my b value. So now that I know what a and b both are, I just have to put them into my function as the a and b. So what's my function? F of x equals 4.1394 square root of x minus 0.1394. Thanks for listening.